What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Full 90. Today it is time for the week 25 Premier League predictions, and they are coming thick and fast. Just a heads up, I'm recording this before even the week 24 video has actually even gone out, let alone the fixtures have been played, because I'm away in Paris for a week by the time this is going up, so I won't have any other time but now to make this video. So please do drop a like, subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. We've got a Champions League video coming up very soon, which I'm recording tomorrow, so that's very, very exciting. And also, yeah, it would just support me and helps the channel grow. Leave your predictions down in the comments below. I love looking at them, comparing them with myself and obviously all with each other, and it is a lot of fun. So without further ado, let's get into week 25. Again, without the insight of week 24 or anything like that. It is a little bit scuffed, but here we are. Sometimes I've found in the past that going into it with less recency bias actually does help and improves the accuracy of my predictions. So I suppose I won't be swayed by anything that happens in week 24. Like, I won't be changed or anything like that. I'll try and think about it more logically and more how things should go, and that can sometimes work. So kicking it off, we do have Manchester United up against Southampton. I wanted to predict a draw. I really did want to predict a draw, but after going out in the FA Cup to Middlesbrough, Man United, they've got to start doing something. They've got to win. And then when you realise that the last time they played at Old Trafford in the league against Southampton, they won 9-0, it's hard to look past a Man United victory. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 scoreline. I was tempted to go for both teams to score, but I've gone for that in a couple of other fixtures. So I've gone with over 2.5 goals instead at 1.72, and that covers for a massive win to nil, like last time when Man United won 9-0. Because if you bet both teams to score there, you've lost your bet whilst there's 9 goals in the game, which is a little bit annoying. So I think Southampton will also feel like they can get at Manchester United, try and get a result, and that lends itself to goals as well. So I do see there being a decent amount of goals in this game, and at 1.72, I couldn't really look past it. After that, we have Brentford up against Crystal Palace, and I think this is going to be a close game. Crystal Palace have never beaten Brentford, but I think this is going to be a close, low-scoring game. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, and my tip actually is both teams to score at 1.95 in case Brentford and Palace, sometimes you think about Brentford and Palace and you expect them to have kind of lower scoring games, I guess, sometimes, especially with Brentford when it comes to the Premier League, that is. Obviously, they were scoring loads before, but when it comes to Premier League football, these aren't the two highest scoring teams, but on their day, they both could score 3 goals. Palace and Brentford alike have all done it this season. So I'm going to go for the 1-1 draw, but my tip at 1.95 is both teams to score, because I do think there's an interesting little bit of value there. After that, it's Everton up against Leeds, and this was a very tricky one. I've actually backed the home side. I've actually backed Everton to get a win, and I didn't predict them to even beat Newcastle in the previous week. I'm finally predicting Everton to get a win. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win, but my tip is both teams to score at 1.61. I just think Leeds are also in a little bit of trouble, and Everton, if they're going to get some points and get a bit of momentum going, it's going to have to be at Goodison Park against a team that's typically renowned for its relatively poor defensive record in the recent Premier League. So I'm going to go just shade it towards Everton. After that, we have Watford up against Brighton, and I think this game has some brilliant value in it. Once again, do I think Watford are going to keep a clean sheet? No, I do not. But I actually think Brighton's defence is going to hold firm. I'm going to go for a 1-0 win to Brighton, and this could be a 5-2 win in some really weird abstract world. So my tip is Brighton to win at 2.2. That does allow for a Watford goal, but Watford's defence is the worst in the league, not necessarily in terms of the amount of goals they've conceded, but I would say, you know, they haven't kept a clean sheet, and they're the only team in the Premier League that hasn't kept a clean sheet, and they did lose 3-0 to Norwich not so long ago. So I'm going to go for a Brighton win in this one. After that, it's Norwich up against Man City, and I didn't look anywhere. I didn't look at previous games between the two teams. I just wrote down 5-0 to Manchester City. I know Norwich are under somewhat of a resurgence. They've won multiple games this year, which a lot of people were not expecting after the start that they had, but Man City are unbelievable. I'm going for a 5-0 win, and my tip here is Manchester City to win on a -2 handicap at 2.25, because if you look at Man City against Norwich, you would say a 3-0 win is most definitely expected, but also not that many goals. Like, it doesn't sound like they've blown Norwich away. It sounds like they've beaten them as they should, and it wouldn't surprise me if probably 2-0 is realistically, because the bookies don't get too carried away with correct scores. I'd imagine 2-0 is probably the most likely correct score based on odds, but 3-0 will not be far behind. In fact, I'm going to check the exact statistics on the most likely scoreline for Man City against Norwich because it's such a lopsided scenario. So the most likely score, I was exactly right. So 2-0 to Man City is the most likely at odds of 7, but 3-0 is the second most likely at odds of 7.5 because 1-0's at 9.5. Draw, Norwich win, all that's just way out there. So I was completely right with the prediction in my own head, and that was that 2-0 is the most likely one according to the bookies, but I think 3-0 is definitely not outside the realm of possibility at all, and it was reflected by being the second most likely score. But I'm going for 5-0 either way, but the handicap looks pretty good for a tip there. Now after that we do have Burnley up against Liverpool, and I think this is going to be fairly straightforward. Burnley, I know they've got Weghorst. We don't know how he's going to play. I'm sure he'll do just fine, but this is Liverpool. And if Salah and Mane didn't play in the previous game week, I said I think they could because it's about 4 days after the end of the Africa Cup of Nations, I think. But even if they didn't, they would be able to play in this game, and they are therefore going to beat Burnley at Turf Moor. It's going to be relatively straightforward. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win to Liverpool. My tip is going to be Liverpool win to 0 at 2.2. I know there's always a bit of a gamble, pardon the pun, when it comes to backing teams win to 0 because someone like Burnley, I mean, they're a Premier League side. Every side in the Premier League is capable of scoring against Liverpool. Genuinely all of them, because that's how the Premier League works and that's why we love it so much. But I think Liverpool should have enough to win to 0. After that, we have Newcastle up against Aston Villa. I tipped Aston Villa to just beat Leeds in the previous game week and Newcastle to take points away from Everton at St. James's Park. How will this one go? I'm tempted to look towards Aston Villa. Obviously, in the long-term future, Newcastle look more set up to be more super successful than Aston Villa, but in the current day and even in the short term, Aston Villa are more established in the Premier League. I think it's an absolute miracle they weren't relegated a couple of seasons ago when the goal line technology basically allowed them to stay up because it failed and meant that, you know, Bournemouth got screwed, I think it was, or it was in again maybe against Sheffield United, something wrong with the goal decision system that basically went in Aston Villa's favour and they managed to stay up in 18th, and since then they've built, and now there's no way they're going down. So they really they avoided a really bad scenario there, and now they look more established than Newcastle. Even though they've got a lot of great signings, it might take a little while for them to gel. So I think at this current moment, I'm going to shade Aston Villa with a 2-1 win, and my tip again is Aston Villa to win at 2.3. Now after that, we have Tottenham up against Wolves. Currently at the time of recording, before week 24, Wolves, the form team of the Premier League. Tottenham, I predicted in the previous game week they would just be able to scrape, and emphasis on scrape, past Southampton. I predicted Wolves to draw 0-0 with Arsenal. I don't know either of those results, but I think Tottenham are quite heavy favourites for this one, which is surprising to me given how often you find Tottenham don't have the output you'd expect with their level of quality of players. They're quite blunt considering the players they have, and they struggle not necessarily from the front. Harry Kane and Heung-min Son, there's very rarely issues there, but creativity in the middle has been a bit of an issue recently for Spurs, and that will suit Wolves just fine. They're a solid defensive unit. I think Spurs, they rightfully are the favourites, but perhaps a little bit too short here, so I'm going to go for another 0-0 draw, and my tip is under 2.5 goals because it's at 1.72, and to have that in a Wolves game is pretty good value, I would say, and I don't see there being many goals. I think Spurs could fail to show up in this one. Now the final fixture, it's Leicester up against West Ham, and surprisingly right now at the time of recording, Leicester are currently losing 4-1 to Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup, which is outrageous. Makes me feel a little bit better as an Arsenal fan, and you know, because we went out to Nottingham Forest as well. So you know what, let's just support Forest to win the whole thing. Why not? Maybe Leicester have made a comeback. We'll have a quick little look just in case what I'm saying is massively outdated, but I highly doubt it. No, it's 10 minutes to go, still 4-1. So that is the end of Leicester in the FA Cup, which is, you know, bravo to Nottingham Forest for that one. I think Leicester are in a bit of an icky patch, a bit of a sticky situation. I think West Ham will just be able to exploit that. I think this genuinely could go either way. I think the one thing we can be sure of is that both teams are going to score and there's going to be goals. So I'm going to shade it towards West Ham 2-1, but we've seen West Ham lose games where they should have won and win games where they should have lost. Same with Leicester, so it's very difficult to predict the result, but I think goals is more or less guaranteed. So my tip is both teams to score and over 2.5 goals at 1.9. So that is going to do it for the Week 25 predictions of the Premier League. If you did enjoy it, please do drop a like, subscribe down below so you don't miss a future video. I think the next one will be the Champions League predictions. I want to say, in a few days. I think that'll be out on Monday, so keep an eye out for that. That is going to do it from me, and I'll see you in the next video very soon.